Hi, my name is Nicholas. Welcome to this week's Yin practice. For props for today, a blanket, soft block, and bolster will likely come in handy. And when you're ready, we'll get started in a squat for today. So you can you can use your bolster as well for this. But just before we get there, if for any reason you're not practicing squat, you can also take a shape like this where the bum and the feet stay on the floor. You could also come to like a butterfly shape. If you are coming to squat, then set the feet whatever distance apart feels good. Maybe coming to sit on your bolster. You can also stack your other props as well if you need a little more height. And then find the angle of the feet that feels the most natural for the hips. Hands can stay down or come to prayer. And take a moment to lengthen the spine a little bit. And if the elbows are really pressing the knees apart, you might just find just enough kind of force to counter that, pressing the knees into the elbows as well. Lengthen the spine. If the muscles in the shoulders are shrugging up, maybe you can soften them a little. Maybe closing down the eyes here. Notice the gentle flow of your breath. Notice what's happening in the legs and in the back, the pelvis. And see if you can be with whatever you're feeling. If the hands are in prayer, gently release them to the floor. If you have a prop underneath you, you can move it to the side so you can lower the hips to the floor. With the hands behind, gently windshield wiper the knees side to side a few times. The next time the knees come down towards the left, then we'll pause and sit up for deer pose so you can roll on to the outer left hip. You can keep the left shin parallel to the top edge and the right shin parallel to the long edge of the mat. But if you find that that feels a little too intense, you could also bring one or both heels a little closer in towards the pelvis. If you find yourself leaning heavily onto that left hip, you might choose to pat it a little bit. And you can also use your blanket for that. And then we're going to set up to fold here. So you're welcome to explore and see which fold feels like the best. If you want to do knee, shin, or ankle, I'm going to go with the middle one for today. And if you'd like to have your bolster nearby, it might be handy so that you can come down in stages, maybe pausing on the elbows for a little bit. If you find space, you can go a little deeper. Always that pain-free expression. So if you do start to feel pinching, maybe it's that back knee needs a little padding or something else, then add that in. Otherwise, see if you can find your stillness and your shape. Very gently, and with the support of the hands, start to bring yourself back up. If you have a prop underneath the left hip, you can move it out of the way. And then bring that left foot a little closer to the body. Reach around for that right leg. And you can step the right foot down either in front of or just to the outside of the left knee. And you're always welcome to re-extend that left leg straight out in front of you. If the hips feel uneven, then add a prop underneath them. And you can take the right hand behind you, loop the left elbow around the right knee. Find a little length here, a little softness for the shoulders. If you like to take the gaze over the right shoulder, then go for it. Find your stillness as you feel ready. And gently unravel yourself back to center and take a counter twist. And then back to midline, release the legs, and give yourself a windshield wiper side to side. Awesome, and then we'll set up the second side. So take the right shin parallel to the top edge, the left shin parallel to the long edge. Maybe a prop for the right hip if it was helpful on the other side. And you can adjust again anything you need for the shape. You can explore and see where you'd like to fold from. And it might need to be a little different to the first side, but look for something that feels similar in the body. Maybe coming partway down onto the elbows. Maybe a little bit deeper as you have space. If at any point you find yourself in too deep, then feel free to back out. And especially make sure you find a pain-free expression. And as you're ready, release into the shape. Gently helping yourself back up using the support of the arms. Sliding that left block out of the way and take the right foot towards the pelvis. Help the left leg around now. Left foot steps outside the right knee. And setting yourself up, you can always extend that right leg. Left hand behind, right elbow around the left knee. Find your length and then settle into your twist. Maybe soften the shoulders a little bit. Maybe take the gaze back. Inhale, unravel back to center. And counter twist. Awesome. And then back to center. Release the legs. Give them one more windshield wiper side to side. Awesome. And then we'll set up for the next shape, which is frog pose. So if you have your blanket, roll it into or fold it into a long rectangle shape. And you don't have to be super specific about it. And give yourself a little extra slack in the middle. And we'll come to a tabletop position with the knees on the blanket, and then use the blanket to help slide the knees apart. And it will also be useful to have your bolster nearby. So I normally set it up right in front of the blanket or maybe a little bit forward so that as you come into the shape, you can rest the chest and maybe the pelvis a little bit onto it too, or the belly. So when you're ready, come to a tabletop position, positioning your knees on your blanket, your hands under the shoulders, and then you can start to slide your knees apart. And keeping the legs pointing away from you as well, so the feet are roughly in line with the knees, but you can also play around with this. If it feels too intense and you want to bring them in a little bit, then go for it. And then when you find the place where the hips feel like they're ready to stop, then maybe you're lowering down onto the elbows or onto your prop. Notice where the pelvis is relative to the knees, generally keeping them roughly in line with each other. Sometimes if you come too far forward or maybe even too far back, you'll kind of lose the connection to the stretch in the inside of the legs. Anything else that you need to adjust to make the shape a little bit more sustainable or to make sure that it's completely pain-free? As you're ready, find your steadiness here. Find your breath. As you feel ready, we'll come out of the shape. I find what feels maybe the easiest is to slide your body forward, and then when you have space, you can slide the knees back a little closer together. You're welcome to stay up on your bolster if that feels comfortable for a little bit, or if you want, you can slide it out of the way and come to lying flat on the belly. As you feel ready to, you can walk the hands under the shoulders and press up to a tabletop position. You can move any props that you don't need out of the way. And take the knees a little further apart, bring the hips towards the heels, and then release the spine for child's pose. We'll take this into a side stretch. So when you're ready, you can walk the hands towards the top right corner of the mat. You can keep the arms extended, or you could also bend one or both elbows if that feels better. Maybe you want to take the left hand on top of the right. And then keep the hips nice and heavy, especially if they're sliding towards the right. See if you can keep them in midline. And then notice that stretch from the left hip all the way up to the left hand. And slowly walk the hands back towards center, and then take them off towards the top left corner. And the side might feel a little different, so take your time setting yourself up. The hips heavy. Find the stretch through the whole left side, or right side rather. Awesome. And slowly walk the hands back towards center. You can come up to a tabletop position, maybe find a kneeling shape for a breath or two, and see if the spine needs any adjusting, maybe a twist side to side, maybe a seated cat-cow for a round or two. Awesome. And then when you're ready, you can come through a tabletop position, maybe turning to the side and stepping up onto the feet, and then start to walk the feet nice and wide apart. We'll set up for a dangling shape but with a really wide base. So if you want to have the bolster a little bit closer, just so that the floor is a little closer if you don't want to fold as deeply. And take a moment to adjust the feet and find the angle that feels best for the shape, maybe the most natural in your body or maybe the one that gives you the best stretch. And then you can have a bend to the knees as much as you need. And when you feel ready, you can start to let the spine get a little bit heavier here. Maybe you're not quite ready for stillness and maybe something just feels a little icky. You want to move it out a little bit. You're welcome to do that first. When you do decide for stillness, then see if you can settle yourself in, if you can use your props to make the shape more comfortable, more sustainable. Let the spine get nice and heavy. Maybe even a nod yes and no for the neck just to release. You can use the hands for support and come towards a halfway lift shape. You might point the toes out a little bit and just give your hips a little movement side to side. Awesome. And then bring the feet a little bit closer. You can come through a squat and we'll lower the bum straight down to the floor. And from here, if you like to add a little height to the hips, you can use your soft block. We'll find our rest shape for today, so I'm going to rest in a seated butterfly. If you'd rather lie down on the back or maybe cross-legged or something else, then go for it. Any quiet, symmetrical shape. And then if you want to use your bolster underneath your knees so that the hips have something to rest into, that might feel nice here as well. And make sure that this shape feels relatively effortless. So if it feels a lot to hold yourself up, maybe you want to do it with your back against a wall, or maybe you want to choose a shape for the lower body that feels more effortless for the upper body. As you settle yourself in, see if there's anything that needs a little bit of an adjustment. And rest the hands wherever they feel the most comfortable. And find the length in the spine, the softness in the shoulders. Let the breath be quiet and steady. Maybe the mind can be quiet and steady too. And gently bring your attention back to the space. And take a few deep breaths here. If you're with me in butterfly, it might feel nice to separate the feet a little bit, lean back and windshield wiper the knees side to side just a few times. You can bring your feet back to butterfly. Just one last counter stretch for the low back. Bring yourself forward, gently fold onto the legs, and take a few deep breaths here. Gently making your way back up. You can keep butterfly, or if you'd like to find easy pose instead, then go for it. And perhaps connecting the hands in front of the heart, bowing the chin towards the chest. Thank you for sharing your practice today. Namaste. Thank you for joining me for Yin practice. And my name is Nicholas. If you have any questions, please reach out and enjoy the rest of your day.